Good day. Sorry I've not been back for a little while. I've been sick, so my throat sounds a little messed up right now. I'm just gonna do a quick short one today, and this has to do with an older topic, or depending on where you're watching this in the playlist, a topic that was just done, which is based on character movement and animation. So we've been using this character, which was found online, and the package was listed in the description. So we've been using her where she's walking upwards, she's walking to the right, she's walking down, and she's walking to the left. When you are creating your own games, you might want to start with other resources, and sometimes you're not going to find the most perfect of resources that have everything you want, and you have to make do with what you have. There is, in this tutorial, we're going to be using something called Tiny RPG Forest. It will be linked in the description. By no means is this a bad one. This is a very good asset pack. What they have though is they only have the character walking up, the character walking down, and the character walking to the side in only one direction to the side. So we're going to do a quick look at how we can do this with a character who only faces one direction for the side. Let's first start by bringing the character into our scene, and here we go. So this is just one of the idle animations. Right now I don't have any animation set up. I just dragged in the image. So I'm now going to add all the things I'm going to need to this character. First things first, give it a little rename to just Hero. Alright. We are going to need animation, so an animator. We're going to need a rigid body, 2D. Immediately I'll set this to 0, and on the constraints I am going to freeze rotation Z. Okay, so that's it for that. And then we're going to need a script, which I've already prepared for this already. I've got a script called player 3 direction. Okay, we'll probably also want a collider and all that, but for now I won't bother with that. Go and look at the other movement tutorial on how to set up your pivot points and how to set up your colliders and everything. This is just focusing on a three directional character. So let's open this up and let us rush through creating our script. And I really spelled that wrong, 2 L's. Okay. You can name your script whatever you want. Alright, so I'm going to just put in the usual stuff I normally do, so you can follow along with this. This is a public float player speed, public rigid body 2D, RB. We need public animator, anim. And so these are oh yeah, let's just do a public. No, I don't need public. So vector 2 direction, and these are some of the basic ones that we've set up for our character before, and we're gonna have 2 methods in here. Don't need that line. Okay, so I'm going to put in rb.velocity is equal to direction, and let us now put in how the direction is going to be built. So we're going to need a float rs equals input dot get axis raw horizontal. This is going to be vertical. I'm really spelling bad today because I just realized that's hot-is. That's supposed to be har-is. Okay, good. So now we're going to say that direction, and thank you for helping me out, dot normalized multiplied by player speed. Okay, so this is just a very basic thing for getting our player moving. Now we need to set up for the player to be able to change directions. For that, let's just change this graphic for another one. Once we have updated. Okay, so I'm going to replace the sprite with the hero side just to go through a few basic things. Alright, so here I have the hero facing to the side, and I want him to face the opposite direction. The sprite renderer comes with a function called flip, and if I click the X, it flips it, and that's perfect for what we need. We need something that can flip. However, it is only flipping the image. It's not actually flipping the game object. If I had something attached to this game object, so let's say he's doing an attack, and I want to have, let's create an empty, and I'll say attack hitbox, and this is gonna have a collider on it. So let's just use a box collider, 2D, and let's move it around. Okay, so let's say that this is where we are trying to detect that I make a punch, and that is attached to as a child of the hero object. If I flip the graphic, we can see that our image changes, but that box doesn't change. The child object does not change. We can go through and do a whole bunch of math to get it done, but rather than do that, we'll just do something extremely simple. There's two ways we can do it. One is, what if I rotate the character? So if I take this and rotate it all the way around, it has just taken the parent and the child and flipped it around with a rotation. So minus 180, and there we have our rotation. That's one way to do it, nice and easy. The other way is I'm going to use scale. So if I take the x-axis and I'm going to start stretching out, we see he stretches as I go over 1, and so does the child object. When I start to come down and I pass under 1, we start to squish all the way down to 0, and past 0 into negative numbers, we're now stretching back up. So -1 in the scale is the same thing as me rotating it around. It flips the image and it flips the child object as well. So that's how we're going to get our scale done. Sorry, our flip done is that we're going to use scale to do it. First thing I need to do is we need to pay attention to what direction he's initially facing. I'm going to do that in our code by adding another line up here, and I'm going to say public bool facing right is equal to true, because our character is facing right. Okay, I'm going to create a script now. So this is a void flip, and this script is going to help flip the object. I need to know though, is my character moving left or right? Because the flip is all based on the movement of the character, and the horizontal movement, the horizontal input, is the one that does it. So I'm just going to pass in that information into the flip, and up here I'm going to call on the flip, and I need to pass in the horizontal data. Okay, so that will allow us to find out should I be doing any sort of flipping, and we'll just save that, and let's go look at the flip now. Okay, so there are two questions I have to ask. So let's just start building an if here. And that's the first question. The second question is going to be an or. It has to be one thing or the next thing to deal with a flip. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. The first question is going to be asking the question. The first question is going to be asking, what direction are we facing? So if I'm facing right, so facing right is true, what do I need to make a flip happen? Am I not pushing a direction? No flip's going to happen if I'm not pushing a direction. am I pushing right? So if I'm facing right and I'm pushing right, no flip is going to happen. But if I'm facing right and I push left, then a flip is going to happen. So we know that our horizontal direction is from our inputs. Pushing right is +1, pushing left is -1. So if the horizontal is less than 0, that means that I'm pushing left. So that's the first question. Second question, what if I'm facing left? So I don't have a variable for facing left. I have facing right. I could say facing right equals false. That would mean that I'm facing left. Or I could just use a very shortcut way of saying facing right, if not facing right. So that little exclamation mark just means the opposite, not facing right. So if I'm not facing right and I'm pushing, so if I'm not facing right, I'm facing left and I push right. Hars is going to be greater than 0 if I'm pushing right. If these two clauses are satisfied, then I can do a flip. Otherwise, I don't need to do any flips. So here's how we're going to do the flip. I would love to be able to do something like this, where I can just take the character and say transform dot local scale dot x equals -1. I can't do that. You cannot affect one single part of the local scale. The local scale is made up of x, y, and z, and I have to affect all of them at the same time. So in order to do that, I need to build myself a vector 3 to get x, y, and z. So local scale equals, I'm going to say new vector 3. I'm going to open my brackets. Just going to make some space here because I want to do this on separate lines. Alright, so I've got an x, y, and a z. Where am I getting the x, y, and z from? Well, I'm not changing the y or the z. So let's put here, I'm getting them from the transform dot local scale dot y. So y has not changed at all. And I'm going to get z. So z has not changed. I'm just taking whatever was in the local scale y and local scale z before. I'm not going to change it. But I want to change the flip to -1. But I can't just say -1. I could put -1 there. Well, that's good if I'm facing right to turn to face left. But what if I'm facing left to turn back right? I need something that's going to change 1 to -1 and something that changes -1 to 1. And it's very simple. You multiply by -1. 1 times -1 is -1. And -1 times -1 is 1. So multiplying by -1 is going to work for us. And just like the others, we're getting the x. Except I'm altering the x by -1. Multiplying by -1. This is going to satisfy turning the player around. But now that we've turned the player around, we need to change facing right. There's a couple ways I can do it. Let's show the long way first. If facing right is true, then I can say facing right equals false. And then on another line, else facing right equals true. So I could do that. Too many lines. Too much words. Not good enough. I could just say that facing right is equal to not facing right. So if facing right was true, it becomes false. If it was false, it becomes true. So that's just a quick way of flipping your facing right. And that flips our character to face the opposite direction. Most of the code is finished now for the flip. All we need now is the code for our animations. Before we do that, let's go and build the animations in Unity. Okay, so I have our little guy here. And let's go add an animator to him. So, where is he? There he is. And animator, let's click on that. Let me just go to animation. Here we go. Create. Where am I going to put this? I'll just store this in animations. Make new folder. 3-direction. And I'll call this one idle down. And I'm just going to build all of the animations right now. So I've got idle down, idle side, idle up, then the walks, walk down, walk side, and walk up. Okay, we need to move this up here for a short bit so that I can actually get to my assets. When we are doing our animations, the frame rate of the animations is represented by samples. So if this is not showing up, if you're new to Unity and you have done a recent install, then this by default is not going to show. In order to turn that on, you have to click on the 3 dots here. Now, there are 3 dots above it and 3 dots here. I want the one below, the one right on top of the scroll bar. You click on that and you turn on show sample rate. All right, so let's start filling these things in. So we've got walk up. Let's go to walk back. I'm gonna grab all of these and just drag them in. And the sample rate, I want it to be 12. Let's take a look and see how that looks. Yep, that's a good speed. All right, so we're using sample rate 12 for everything. So let's walk up the side now. Let's drag all that in. Sample rate 12. Let's go to, 12, enter. Let's go to down. So down is front. Sample rate 12. And the rest of them, I don't really need to do a sample rate because there's only one frame. So this is idle up. Idle up is back. Side. And idle down is front. All right. Don't really need that anymore, so I can just move that back down here. And let's look at the animator now. Hero. Okay, so here we have all those animations. Awesome. I'm going to take them all and delete them because we're not using them there. Let's go to find my animations. Good. And what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be creating a blend tree. So create state, new blend tree. I'll call this guy idle. And let's go into it. Actually, no, let's get back out of it. In order to use it, I'm going to need some parameters. First, I'm going to need a float of X and a float of Y. In the last tutorials, remember I said be careful of how you spell them with capitals or not, because you have to use them exactly the same way in your code. And I'm going to do a bool of walking. That's going to transition between idle and walking. I do not need this blend anymore, so I can get rid of that. And let's go into idle. Okay, clicking on the blend tree inside of here, we are doing a 2-dimensional blend, so 2D simple direction. And the parameters we need to use are the X and the Y. Start adding some motion fields. So once I get 2, the graph shows up. I need 4 of them. So the directions are going to be, let's use X. Let's do the up down first and then left right after. So in the left right it'll be -1 and 1, and in the up down it will be 1 and -1. So X is 0 in both these for the up and down, and Y is 0 for the left and right. Now we can start filling in what motions go to these. And this is my idle, so the first one was up, so I need idle up. The second is down, so I need idle down. The third is left. I'm going to put in idle side for both left and right. So now I've got all of those. I'm going to come out by clicking on base layer, take our idle, Control C and Control V to copy it. I'm just going to rename it to walk. And let's go into here. So everything's already set up, but we're in the walk one now, so I don't need the idle animations. I'll replace them with the walk animations. There's walk, up, walk down, walk side, and walk side. And I've just noticed we have an error. Don't know how long that's been there, but oh, that was when I deleted the blend. So that's neither here nor there. Because those needed blends, so let me just delete that. All right. Now, from the idle, make a transition to the walk. From the walk, make a transition to the idle. I'm going to set duration, transition duration 0, no exit time. Same with the next one, 0, no exit time. Now, these need conditions. To go from idle to walk, we need a condition of is walking true. From walk back to idle, it's very simple. Walking is now false. All right, animations are now set up. Now we need to be able to program this. Let's get back to our code. And we have now set up a direction for our character. And let's find out what's going to happen in this direction. I'm going to ask a question. Well, I'm actually going to ask the question coming from the velocity. So I'm going to say if the RB dot velocity is, let's say, for now, let's say vector 2. I don't know why that went to vector 3. Vector 2 dot 0. So we're asking if the velocity is 0, it means that my player is not going anywhere. He's not moving. So with 0 being said, we're going to say that anim dot set bool, and I called it walking with a capital W, and I'm going to set it to false. I'm just going to copy that for now. And now we haven't given any directions because there's no direction to give. The player's not moving. And I'm not going to give it a direction of 0 in X and Y, because if I do that, the character will, when you stop walking, the character is going to face down. I want the character to face in the last push direction. So that will be handled by the else. And in the else, I'm saying that walking is true. And now I need to anim set float X. And X is, oops, no, X goes in quotes. And we're going to get X from Harris. Let me see if that's right. Yes, X is again from Harris, so -1 and +1 will go into X. And now let's set the Y. And we get that from vert. We do not get it from the direction, because the direction is multiplied by player speed. It's been normalized. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happened to direction, so I don't want to get it from direction. Hars and vert are going to be our -1 and +1 that we need in the animator controller. Okay, so in this case, I start walking and I set its X and Y. If I stop walking, whatever X was set to last is going to still be stored in the animator. It's not going to set it to 0. And that is how we go about setting up the animation. The last thing we need to do is link everything together on the hero object. So Um, Here I have my guy. I'm gonna put him at a speed of 5. He is facing right. Here's the animator. Drop that in. Here's the rigid body. Drop that in. And now let's go take a look at our character. And we can hit play for the first time. And fingers crossed. Okay. Now something went wrong because see what I mean by it will reset? It's resetting to a default direction. So let's look in animator. I want to know what's going on in here. My X and Y keep getting reset to 0. Y. Stop it and let's take a look at the code. Okay. Could it just be an order problem? Let's see if that worked. Okay, let's give that a check and see what happens. And play. Nope, it's still resetting to 0. Okay, why? Let's try and inverse this. I don't know, maybe. If it's not 0, put that down here. Put these up here. I might have an idea as to why though. And let me just test this first, then see. I think I might know why. Okay, so I think I know why. All right. I'm using the velocity. I was hoping to use velocity that way if I'm walking into a wall and your player is still pushing in a direction, I want him to stop animating, but you can't have everything. So rather than use that, I'm going to use direction. So what is the difference between that? Well, update and fix update are happening at 2 different times. So when I'm setting the direction and I'm checking the velocity, it's very likely that there is just a fraction of a second that goes by when it's resetting. Let's see if this works. I did it yesterday in class. I can't remember if I used direction. I believe I used direction, maybe. I don't know. And bingo. That was it. So the fix update and the update are happening at 2 different times. So my velocity had reset before I could check to see if it was moving. All right, and there we have a character. It's very small here. Let's go up full screen. So scale. Nope. Let's go player, maximize. Here we go. And we can now see he's got his left and right being done by the flip, and he's got his down and his up working perfectly. And if we did look at, so if I go to pause it and click on the hero and look at him in the scene, there he's got his hitbox. Let's go focused. and we see the hitbox is flipping with him, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. Obviously, you'd have different hitboxes for up and down, but it's the left and right hitbox that I need to be able to work with. Alright, that is it for this tutorial, and thank you for watching. This has been how to do an animation when we only have 3 directions drawn, which means that either you couldn't find an animation that suited your needs perfectly, or you're doing your own animations and you don't want to have to draw all 4 directions. There's nothing wrong with doing just 3 directions. Just be careful of how you design your character. For instance, this guy's got a little feather in his cap, which means that is on his right side. When I flip him, it will be on his left side. So just be careful if you want your designs to work okay. That is it, and I will see you in the next one.